Welcome back to my channel. I'm James, and today we're gonna sink our teeth into Fright Night, the brand new 4K Ultra HD and 4K release from Sony Pictures. Now, this is a brand new SteelBook limited edition set that just came out here this week. And this is one of those releases that I was kind of curious if Sony was going to keep on their good track record, or if this was going to have some things that maybe I wasn't as excited about. So I did all of my exclusive testing on this, and we're going to be doing my exclusive 4K versus the original Blu-ray release image comparisons. And that's something I always exclusively do here on this YouTube channel. Then at the end, I'll always wrap it up with my review score that lets you know how this compares to all the previous other Sony releases, as well as hundreds of other 4Ks I've reviewed here on this YouTube channel. Now, my goal this year for the YouTube channel is to hit 10,000 subscribers. So if you can go down and give this video a like and a thumbs up for me, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. That way by the end of this year, we can hit our goal. The goal is always to keep growing this community, and the only way I can do that is if you hit that subscribe button down below. Now to start off with here, I'm going to show you the original Blu-ray release here. Now as always, this is the native image that's pulled from the disc. As I've explained hundreds of times over the years on this YouTube channel, these are always the native images pulled directly from the disc without all of the artificial things your TV can try to do to artificially alter the image that's present on these discs. So when you see this, this is what the original image looks like from the Sony previous release on Blu-ray of Fright Night. Now, the previous release was slightly soft. It did have some slight issues with a little bit of blocking, and there was some slight instances of DNR in it. Now, it was a pretty decent Blu-ray release, but it was never reference quality or just absolutely outstanding. But because it was kind of more or less a cult classic film, Fright Night is one of those basically 1985 vampire, comedy, horror, just kind of a mishmash of a bunch of different genres. So it was never one of those films that was just so huge that I kind of was surprised we even got this 4K restoration. Well, in comparison to the new 4K Ultra HD release from Sony, we do get some nice improvements, and I'm going to touch on that here and talk to you about what the improvements were. Now, there was some things that I was just slightly disappointed on that I'll touch on in a little bit here as well, but in comparison to those images above, as always, this is the native image for the 4K. Though keep in mind, for the 4K, this is without Dolby Vision or HDR10, because YouTube's algorithm will always dumb down every image down to standard HDR. So what you see for the 4K will look better on HDR on your home TV than it does in a YouTube video. Just keep in mind, I've always kind of expressed that before. So the image you see above is a difference than what you had on the Blu-ray. There is much more depth and clarity to the image. There was a lot better of a color grading because this did get a new color grade, because they went back to the original 35mm film elements to create this new 4K scan from that's on this 4K Ultra HD. So it does lend to just much more detail without all the DNR and things like that the previous Blu-ray did have slightly in it. So it does add to that, though there was a few instances with the HDR. Now you do get HDR10 and you get Dolby Vision. Now between both of those, I didn't notice too heavy of a variance between those that was really worth talking about. Both of them looked good, and I wouldn't say either one stood out as drastically different over the other one in this case. Whereas some previous reviews, there has been some differences between the Dolby Vision or the HDR10. In this one, it wasn't too heavy that it was worth really mentioning much about. Now, on the HDR grading though, there was some slight blooming. That's where I said there's some slight things that were just slightly nitpicky things that I noticed that I was just like, ugh. There was some slight blooming in some of the HDR instances, where what blooming is, if you don't know what that is it's where the image gets overly bright that it saturates the brightness into the darker areas of the HDR part of the image. So that what happens is like if there's a bright light coming out of darkness, it'll have a blooming effect, kind of like a haloing outside of where that basically HDR area should be with the brightness of the image. It should be dark in those areas. Instead, it carries over some of that kind of whitish area over it. There was some slight blooming in some scenes in this, which in previous Sony releases, like I recently reviewed I Know What You Did Last Summer. If you haven't checked out that review, that was a really good release by Sony. I did Real Genius. I've done dozens of previous Sony releases, but specifically like I Know What You Did Last Summer, there wasn't any blooming issues at all. This one is just slight. I'm not gonna say it's horrible, it's just slight little nitpicky things I noticed along the way when I was doing all of my testing. Now, if after you get done watching this review and hearing my review score, you decide you want to buy Fright Night, make sure to go down to the links I've posted in the description section and as a pinned comment in the comment section below. Those take you straight out to Amazon. That's always at no extra cost to you. But it does help to support this YouTube channel just a little bit. So make sure if you decide you want to buy this, to click through those links I've posted down below. That way it does help out this YouTube channel just a little bit. Now, like I was mentioning about the image on this, because this was scanned from the original 35mm elements, and it is a 4K scan, this is a native 4K 2160p, which really lends to why I think the details are so much more detailed, the depth to the image and the clarity over what the previous Blu-ray had anyways, because that was a 1080p and it was never a great scan to begin with that they did. The colors were always off on it slightly, and the color grading on this does look so much better, especially with the wider HDR color gamut that's available, that really lends to giving this more of lifelike skin tones and things like that. Though I will say, because this is another one of those films from the 80s where they used a lot of like makeup effects and kind of like what I would say like where it has like plastic masks on and things like that and rubberized puppets and things like that, you do notice that standing out as a little less realistic. But to me that lends to kind of the more light-hearted fun element of the film, and kind of this film is more of a light-hearted, cheesy, hokey vampire with a werewolf, and there are some story elements in it that don't even really get fleshed out, that kind of don't make sense if you think too hard about it. But it is really one of those cult classic movies that it's kind of a fun time. Though I will touch on, it is rated R, and it is rated R for violence and a brief scene of sexual content. And for those of you that want to know, if you do want to skip that, the sexual content is toward the beginning of the movie where Charlie's looking out the window to his neighbor's window and a woman comes to the window. And it's roughly at 13 minutes, 15 seconds into the movie. And that's the timestamp of it. If you skip that, you don't really miss much of anything, but that's the one scene of sexual content and nudity that's in it. Then the rest of the movie is pretty tame in my opinion. I mean, a lot of the like violence in it is done with like, kind of like just, I don't know, hokey special effects. I like them, and I think it lends to like the overall feel of it, which I really enjoy. A lot of the 80s and 70s like sci-fi and horror movies, the effects they used for them, I just like. I like them better than CGI a lot of the time, because even though they seem kind of hokey, even the gore you can tell is kind of fake in it. And just like when they shoot one of the characters and the character is bleeding green ooze and things like that, it looks really fake. But I like it. I mean, it's fun. I think it adds to just the campy feel of the movie. And that's where Fright Night, I think, kind of excels at, is it really gives you that great classic, cult classic, 80s movie, kind of campy feel to it. And that's where it does excel. Just don't think too hard about it if you've never seen the film, trying to analyze the story, because there's numerous things that are quite a bit of a plot hole that kind of just don't make sense, that when you start adding it up, like, to give you an example, how can a vampire, when he bites you, then make you a werewolf? If anybody's really thought of that, I don't know if any of you caught that or not meaning to spoil anything here, but there is some things that just kind of just didn't make sense. But it's still fun, and I enjoy the film for that element. It was the first time my wife had watched it, and she enjoyed it for those elements as well, because it's not too serious, not too dark or too scary, and it's just kind of, like I said, just kind of one of those fun 80s campy vampire horror thrill rides. Now, something I really was surprised Sony did on this was they did give us a brand new Dolby Atmos track. Now, it does have Dolby True HD 7.1 and a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 and 2.0 stereo. Those are all available in English as well as dozens of other languages and audio options. But the one that really stood out to me and that really impressed me and my wife was the Dolby Atmos. Now, a lot of the times I've heard people say Dolby Atmos can kind of be gimmicky sometimes. And in some releases, yes, you can say Dolby Atmos can be gimmicky. In this one, I thought it was used to such a great effect that I really thought the Dolby Atmos mix on this added a really, really great substantial element of realism that I really haven't seen in a lot of these Dolby Atmos mixes before. There's scenes in this, if you've seen this film, where the vampire's walking on the roof of the house. Now, if you have a good Dolby Atmos setup, I've reviewed a bunch of these before on this YouTube channel. If you want to check out that review, I do have a video showing how to get a nice Dolby Atmos setup on a budget. But if you have a nice Dolby Atmos setup, you will hear an absolutely chilling and awesome effect for Dolby Atmos that I think is a really selling point for when Dolby Atmos can be used to a significant point that it actually adds an element to the film that makes it a really substantial upgrade. In this, it was a big substantial upgrade. when Charlie's inside the house and he hears the vampire walking on the roof of his house and the ceiling is creaking and cracking and thudding. Man, my wife and I were both like, wow, did it give us chills, because it was such a good effect of the upward firing Dolby Atmos speakers hitting the ceiling and then coming down and reflecting down, sounding like he was really walking on the roof of our house, that it gave you that effect that you couldn't tell otherwise, that he wasn't really on your own roof crawling across the roof of your house, scratching with his nails and creaking and walking up there. What a great job. I mean, that to me was worth the upgrade alone, regardless of if the image didn't look that great. That chilling effect really surprised me. And he does it a couple of times, because then again they go into his house and he's walking on the roof of his house and they do the same thing again. And then there's some times where they're in the basement, you can hear him walking on the floor above. I really thought that element, whoever went and took the time to do the Dolby Atmos mix for this release, really did an outstanding job with that. And I thought that was one of the coolest elements that I've seen in an 80s film. They really took the time to think, where are they when that sound effect is going on? And let's move that sound to the Dolby Atmos to be coming out above you to give you that effect. Man, that right there was a selling point for this that really, really surprised me. And when it came on, we were both like, whoa, it kind of caught us off guard. Like, that really sounds like he's crawling on top of our roof. Now, if you enjoy all the hard work I put into every one of these videos, make sure to join my Collectors VIP Club. That is the absolute best way that I can keep affording to create all of these exclusive comparison reviews. I have to pay for all of the software and put 3 to 4 days of work into every single one of these exclusive comparison reviews that I create. They're very expensive and very time consuming. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you can help to support this YouTube channel, and it makes a world of difference in the creation of every one of these videos. I can only continue to create these videos, as I've always said, with all of you, my viewers and subscribers' support. So please make sure to join my Collectors VIP Club. It only costs you a couple of dollars. Cut out 1 cup of coffee and you'll make a world of difference in me being able to always keep creating these videos. That's how I'm able to afford to create all these videos and provide all the software and all the data and all the time to keep creating these videos for you to watch. Now, talking about subtitles, you do get English, French, Spanish, and those are all available in it. Now, they did keep this in the original aspect ratio as well. So this is in 2.39:1. They didn't change it or cut it down at all. So I always appreciate when they don't mess with the aspect ratio. So that's good news. Now, talking about some of the anomalies I did run into when I was testing this. Now, the new 4K did have some slight digital anomalies and like slight artifacts, digital artifacting in it. They're not too heavy, they are slight, but as I'm always picky when I test all of these, I notice them appearing in kind of the right side and then the lower left side of the screen sometimes. Every once in a while, you'd see like a digital anomaly show up and then it'd be gone, and it'd just be very briefly. It wasn't throughout the entire film, it was just randomly throughout it. But I did see some of them throughout it, so I just thought I'd mention that. Now, showing you this limited edition release, this is truly a very limited edition release that Sony is doing. They only released it in one edition, and that is this SteelBook set. I will have it listed down in the description section and as a pinned comment, so if you decide you want to buy it, you can click down there and it'll take you straight out to Amazon to buy it. But the reason I'm pointing this out being very limited edition, Sony has done this numerous times before. They are printing this and they've warned everybody, and that's why I'm warning you, so that way you don't come back on here a year later complaining to me saying, hey, this isn't available anymore, how can I get a hold of it? This is a very limited set. They are only printing so many, though they don't tell us how many, so maybe 10,000, maybe 20,000, I don't know. They're printing so many of these and then they're not printing anymore again. This is a SteelBook limited edition that will go away. It's similar to what they did with kind of like the Ghostbusters set. It's similar to what they've done with numerous other sets. I mean, they did it with Resident Evil originally. They've done it with tons of them. The Columbia Classics collections that have gone out of print. So if this is something you are interested in, do not wait for this to go on a sale. That's why I didn't wait. It's a good price anyways right now. It's under 30 bucks, which is a great price, and it's on sale for the same price as everywhere. And that link down there has it for the same price. But anyhow, it's a good, decent price, especially for a SteelBook. But once it goes out of print, you can't get it. That's just how it goes. The SteelBook I do like, though I do think it would have been cool to get a slightly different cover artwork for the SteelBook. Though some people say they like this cover artwork, so it just depends on what you like on it. But it does have some really cool effects with shiny metallic on it. The side, it does say Fright Night in red. And then on the back, you obviously have your J card here, which talks about your special features and all of your other features. Now, there is a bunch of special features for this 35th anniversary restoration they did for Fright Night. There is a bunch of new special features they've included in this set, and I really did think they did an outstanding job on special features. I'm not going to cover them all because holy cow is there too many to talk about, but this really is the definitive edition of all the special features from previous Blu-ray releases and home video releases. Literally I couldn't find any that weren't included, plus they gave us a ton of new ones. So literally you're getting everything in this. When they said this is the 35th anniversary basically complete edition, they really meant it with this release. You do get a digital movies anywhere code, so you can redeem that and it will get you a 4K code for the movie minus all the special features. So again, special features as is normal, almost all of them are contained on the physical releases, which is why if you're not a physical media collector, you're really missing out on special features because it's very rare that special features come out on digital releases. Sometimes they'll give you maybe an audio commentary or maybe a behind the scenes every once in a while. You don't get this long list of special features, and most kind of digital releases kind of skip a lot of the special features. So a big win for physical media collectors. Now when you take the J card off, you obviously get the vampire character on the back of the SteelBook. I do like that, how it's metallic as well. Now when you get inside here, they did kind of skimp on the inside of the SteelBook. There's no picture to show you behind, it's literally just blue. So it seems like they spent all the money on the outside of the SteelBook artwork, but the inside's just blue. I do like it, but it's just got nothing special for the artwork. In here, obviously, you get special features disc plus feature film. Then you get another disc with special features. Those are Blu-ray discs, and those are BD50s. Now, I did exclusively test these as I always do. Both Blu-rays are region-free. So good news for all of you worldwide. If you didn't get this released in your country and you're wanting to import it through that link I posted below, both Blu-ray discs are 100% region-free. You can play them in region A, region B, region C. Doesn't matter. They did not region lock them. So that's great news. 4K Ultra HD disc, that is region-free as well. This is a BD66, and both of these Blu-rays are BD50s. Now, I will touch on a couple of things with this. There is something really unique. If you line up your Fright Night special features disc, I don't know if they planned it this way, but it was kind of cool. And you look right here through this hole, and I know you're not going to be able to see this on here, but if you buy this, you can do it yourself. Line up your Fright Night disc so it's just looking level. You'll see that the logo for the Blu-ray shines through right through that middle hole perfectly. I don't know if they lined it up to be that way perfectly, but holy cow, it lines up perfectly so you can see behind it it's a Blu-ray without having to take this disc off. I don't know if they meant that on purpose, but I thought that little touch was kind of cool. So the Blu-ray discs, I do like the artwork on them, and I do like that they all have separate artwork so you can tell the difference between the Blu-rays and the 4K, and they easily have them all listed what they are. Now, I did think the image was a nice substantial upgrade over the previous Blu-ray releases, whether you had the Twilight Time or whether you had the previous release before that. Now, I had the Twilight Time and I sold that, and then I got the Sony one later on. I didn't notice that much of an improvement over the Sony one versus the Twilight Time. It slightly looked better, but again, those are only levels on a Blu-ray because they weren't new scans in the first place. This does get on its Blu-rays the brand new 4K scan and restoration as well. So, as I said, this is a very limited edition release. If you are a collector that you want the best version of it on Blu-ray, the Blu-ray that's in here includes the new 4K scan on the Blu-ray, just remember dumbed down to 1080p. That looks a lot better than the previous Blu-ray. So they didn't just port over that previous Blu-ray that Sony had into this set. They did the brand new scan on this Blu-ray. So the only way to own this new Blu-ray release as well is through this very limited edition SteelBook set. So I definitely recommend if you want the Blu-ray or the 4K, this is the way you're going to want to watch it. Now, getting to my review score, other than the anomalies and the things that I had with slight little things in between it, and overall, this limited edition of Fright Night on 4K Ultra HD from Sony gets a great 9.4. It is recommended to pick up and add this to your collection, especially with how limited I know these Sony releases like this are. Don't wait to buy this. Go down and click through that link I've posted in the description section below or as a pinned comment. Order your copy so that way you don't miss out on this. But it's a fun, cheesy, campy, vampire, werewolf, horror ride. Not too intense, other than like I explained that one scene that's in it at the beginning where I told you if you want to skip that, that is available at that timestamp that you can skip it. The rest of it's pretty tame overall, and it's a fun ride throughout it with a really great classic 80s feel behind it. And the film itself has never looked better than this. This is the best version of Fright Night that's ever been released, and according to Sony, this very well might be the only edition of Fright Night with this good of a transfer ever released ever. So I do recommend picking this up and adding this to your collection. It's a worthwhile upgrade over the previous Blu-ray. 9.4 is a good review score. It just got dinged a few fractions of a point less than like a lot of those that I talked about with like Real Genius or like what they did with I Know What You Did Last Summer, because of those few anomalies that appeared throughout it. But the Dolby Atmos track in this was a real treat and a real winner. If you want a fun 80s movie that added something that was really substantial with Dolby Atmos, that really just surprised me overall what they were able to do with an 80s film and add a really cool effect throughout it, this definitely had one of the coolest effects I've had in a Dolby Atmos film for an 80s film. That was just so much fun and made it fun to watch it again. I went back and actually listened to the effect again because it was so cool sounding. But I really thought that added a nice treat to this release. So 9.4, a great release. You're definitely going to want to add this to your collection, especially if you're a collector. Don't sleep on this one, because I don't want to hear you complaining saying you missed out on it, because it was a very limited release that Sony discontinued and isn't releasing again. As I said, I put that link down there in the pinned comment and in the description section below. Make sure if you're going to buy it, you click through one of those links down there. That helps support this YouTube channel just a tiny bit, but it never costs you anything extra by clicking through those links. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoy all the hard work I put behind these with all of my exclusive testing, make sure to join my Collectors VIP Club. As always, that costs you less than the price of a cup of coffee each month. So cut out one cup of coffee and you can help to make a difference on this YouTube channel and help me to be able to keep creating each and every one of these exclusive comparison reviews. So please make sure to join my Collectors VIP Club. It costs you less than a couple of bucks. Also, you can give a super thanks through the super thanks button down below. You can give a super thanks of any amount through that as well. That goes right back into this YouTube channel and helps as well. And all of that makes a huge world of difference to every video that I make here. Don't forget to give this video a like and a thumbs up for me. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. As always, I hope all of you have a blessed day. And I've always got something new and exciting coming out very soon.